Sometimes life strips away everything we think we are to show us who we're meant to be. You know what I mean? Troy Koerntjes had found his tribe, his identity, his sense of purpose within the Brotherhood of an outlaw motorcycle club. The bonds he formed, well, they were real. The support were genuine. The loyalty was unbreakable. But when serious injuries and destructive relationships began taking their toll, Troy faced a crossroads that would define the rest of his life. In this second part of Troy's incredible journey, we discover how a man who understood the power of brotherhood learned to extend that same fierce loyalty and support to those, fighting their own battles with mental health. If you missed part one, though, please go back to that one and listen to that, because we're in the middle of it, because part 3 will come tomorrow as well. Anyway, here's Troy and myself. Please share the show, please follow the show, and please give us a 5-star review where possible. It's only going to help us reach more people and get the guests keep on coming, sharing their journeys. Here's Troy for part 2. Was there a point in your life then, because you've had different stages in your life of things going quite down, where you went through some dark stages, and we never reflect on childhood until we realise we've actually gone through something darker later on in life, if that makes sense. For you, was there a time that you decided, I don't know how to say it, was there a point where you started to reflect on your childhood and then it became like a crystal clear moment? Now I see why I went down that track, or why I decided to do this. If that makes sense.
Yeah. When I started with the psychologist and started talking about some of my patterns of behavior, one of them being, why is all my exes toxic? Like, as a lot of people, it's usually a toxic relationship that's the catalyst for change, because we put ourselves in these positions. So it's not that everybody's toxic. It's just that you are allowing those people in, and you meet people where you're at. If you're unhealthy, you meet unhealthy people. If you're unhealthy and doing drugs, well, you're not going to be around sober, rich millionaires. You're going to be around other people that are unhealthy and doing drugs. So you're just putting yourself in those situations. And when I started looking at my patterns of behavior and going, wow, I dated all these toxic people. What is the common denominator in all this? I was like, I'm the common denominator in all of this. So then you're like, okay, if I'm the common denominator in all this, how did I do this to myself? How did I get in this position? And this all happened pretty quick into the, it actually started in the first session with my psychologist. And then pretty quickly I found Tim Fletcher, who's like my idol. I had him up on this huge pedestal for a very long time. And if you're watching this podcast and you love trauma stuff and complex trauma and codependency stuff, he's your man. So go watch Tim Fletcher. And I started watching his stuff, and it was like he'd been watching me my whole life. And I was studying counseling, I was watching his stuff, and I was in therapy, and it all just started to gel together. And he would explain it like, if this happened to you in childhood, this is probably how you are now, and these are probably the situations that you have been through. And I was just like, has he been standing out the front of my window? Like, like, what the hell? And then I started watching a few other people as well, but he was the main one. He was the main pivot for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just recently had an encounter with him.
Yeah, so it's a funny story with Tim. When I was real deep in my trauma nerd stage, because that's what I become, just a trauma nerd, I sent him a message via email about one of his courses, and I found the link, and I wasn't messaging about the course. It's the only link I could find. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. Your videos have changed my life and my perspective on everything. I just want to say how grateful I am for your videos. You've really changed me. But because it was for a course, the usual sign-ups, you got to put your phone number and email and stuff in it. I was kicking back in this chair, actually, at this table. And I was just sitting there, and I was doing some study, and my phone rang, and he's from Canada, and it had like 20 numbers on the phone. And I was just like, it was like that scene from The Matrix, when the screen pops up, Neo, and then his phone rings, and he grabs his phone, and he's like that. It was no word of a lie. That's exactly what it was like. I was like, no way.
And that was him.
So I started getting the sweat up. I just broke out into a panic, and I was like, "Hello," and he's like, "Troy, how are you?" in his Canadian accent, and I was like, "Tim, yeah," and I was like, "Hang on a second, please, mate." I put the phone down. I took my top off, took my shirt off, and I'm walking up and down the house, and I was like, "Tim," I was like, "I can meet movie stars. I can meet, anyone." Never bothered me. When I was in Thailand training in kickboxing, I met a heap of movie stars over there. Never bothered me. And I was like, "I'm just letting you know, I'm fanboying pretty hard right now." And he had a bit of a laugh, and he's like, "Just take a breath," and then yeah, we had a chat for 15 minutes, and he's like, "Keep in touch, and I wish you all the best and all that." And by that time, I was down to my jocks, walking up and down the house. I was just so hot and sweating,
Love it.
and throughout the years, I've built up my profile on TikTok and stuff like that. And then he started following me. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And a couple of the other guys like Richard Grannon and stuff like that, who I recommend as well, depending on where you are. If you're really in the depth of, if you've just broken up with somebody, he's a very good one to start with. And I was like, all these people that I've been following are following me now. And I messaged him and I was just like, "Hey, thanks, And I was like, every time I see him, I was like, "I really appreciate when you called me." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, cool."
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah. And then he come to Sydney not long ago, and I flew up to meet him at one of his 3-day tours. And I walked in, he's like, "Troy, how you going?" And I was like,
Oh, love
he
it.
remembers me. And I'm like, holy shit, my heart was going a bit. I was a bit nervous and stuff. And they say you shouldn't idolize people because you're putting yourself down.
Yeah.
But, some people have a massive impact on your life, and
Yeah. That's okay too.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And 2 weeks ago, I was on his podcast. So
Amazing.
like,
Did he ask you?
it just he asked me, yeah. So I was like, that's a pretty cool story from being like I don't say like a follower, like a cult sort
Yeah,
of thing,
of
like
course.
just this guy I used to follow. Now I'm on there having a conversation. It's very similar to the conversation I'm having with you, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
It's
I'm definitely not Tim. Well, just so you all know, people, Troy messaged me today and he was getting a bit sweaty and nervous about coming on this podcast. Not really, Jai. Not really. It was me being all sweaty.
I get nervous before each of these.
Oh,
Doesn't
dear.
matter how many I do. Doesn't matter how many people I talk in front of.
Yeah.
Podcasts, I don't know why. I think it's the speaker. If I get on stage at anything and just talk, I'm fine. As soon as I get a microphone in my hand, I get nervous.
Right.
It's really weird.
Yeah. See, I've done a few speaking events now, and I get really nervous up to it. But I know now with my foresight, as soon as that mic gets in my hand, I don't care. I'm good to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't actually get the mic off me.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I don't know why, but I want to throw up leading up to it.
Yeah.
But once I'm all right and I can visualize it and I'm done, man, I just go into grey mode, talking. You can't get me off. Yeah.
Do you think about what you're going to say beforehand?
I do because I had a PowerPoint behind me, so I manipulate the dot points on purpose. So I can remember it, but because I did my first one, I did so many dot points. My friend said that was actually, that's probably like an 8-week course. You could create out of that PowerPoint on itself.
Yeah.
But I felt just for my first one, I needed it just to get past the confidence stage. But then now I know I won't need that anymore because I barely even looked at it. And I just went on a flow. But yeah, no, I did. I remembered a 12-minute script of cards. I had the cards in my hand just in case, but I actually remembered it all, yeah. But now I don't think I would need to do that. I think it was just because it was my first one. But now I visualize the people and know my own internal feelings. I won't need to do that again. But, if there's thousands, that might be a completely different story, but who knows?
Yeah. You memorized that many minutes worth of, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I did. I wrote it all out, and for about a month, I myelinated it in my head. I just thought, well, if I can now, because I'd studied, neural pathways and neuroplasticity and all that, I thought, now I'm going to train my brain. I'm going to train my brain, and I did. I just remembered it all. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I loved it. No, I loved it. I won't need to memorize it anymore because of the knowledge that I've built up since as well. I just think I'll be all right to flow and going in between and stuff. But people said to me, it didn't look like you. It looked like you. One girl said she grew up with parents who are world-renowned speakers. She actually was there at the event. And I was telling her about my journey before I went on stage. And after about 5 minutes, I said I'd never done one before, and she got off. When we got off, she said, "Andy, it looked like you was a seasoned professional." And I went, "Oh no!" I told her afterwards. Sorry, she said I told her later it was my first one, and she went, "Wow, I didn't know that." So I took that as a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loved it. Yeah, no, I loved it. I've lost all track now. So going back to what Tim said about childhood, with what did you recognize about your childhood? What was the first memory for you then that where it all, because you wouldn't have realized at the time, you know, at 5 years old, whatever it was, you wouldn't have necessarily you wouldn't have known in that moment. But looking back now with maturity and wisdom and the learnings you've put yourself through, when was that first point for you where, I don't know, you triggers, or I don't know, what's the best way to say it?
Yeah, I thought that I was stupid. I really did. I thought that I was really slow. I was always called gullible.
Even at the time?
When I was really young.
Yeah.
And that transferred to me being the nice guy, which I friggin' hate, you know, because you're not nice. You're not nice at all. You're trying to manipulate people to get your needs met. That's what you're doing. You're not, if you're nice, you don't need to do that, you know? And, the whole nice guy thing's that's a whole podcast of its own.
It is, yeah.
But I couldn't even talk to girls until I was 12 and drunk. Like, it was just, I had no confidence at all. And there's been a few memories that have actually only come up for me this year I was like, wow, we didn't cover that in therapy, but that makes a lot of sense. So, for example, going through school, I had flat feet and knocked knees, and I went to pretty sporty schools, and couldn't run to save myself, and I used to walk funny because got knocked knees and flat feet.
Yeah,
and then I also have a lazy eye. I don't know if you can tell on camera. Sometimes it might be a little bit closed because it's late. One might be a little bit closed than the other, but I'm half blind, so I've got no depth perception. So everyone in my family were mad football players and cricket players and stuff, and I couldn't catch a ball. I was always like, what's wrong with me? I can't catch a ball, but it's because I got no depth perception. Yeah. So I ended up having to wear an eye patch for what felt to me like a year. It was probably a couple of weeks. It was probably 6 weeks or something, but in my memory, it's 6 months. So I had all these problems with my feet that I had to get looked at all the time. And then I had a problem with my eye because I couldn't catch a ball and all this sort of stuff. So I can hardly see out of this eye. It's pretty, everything's just pretty hazy. Like the letters have to be like this big and this far away from me to be able to, and I've got to like zoom in, zoom out with my eye to make what they are. It's pretty bad. So I used to write my name backwards and upside down. Oh, that was another one. So I was born a lefty, but back then for some reason, if you were born left, they used to make you, I was born in 83. And I was still doing that. Yeah, if you were born left-handed, they'd often make you right-handed.
Here in Australia, that's what they do.
Yep, they still did that when I was young. Yeah, I've met a few people that's happened to. So,
that didn't happen to me in England.
Yeah, right. Well, because I had all this stuff going on, and that all at one time, I started because it all happened in grade 1, grade 2, that sort of thing. So I used to write my name backwards and upside down. So my nickname growing up was always Yort, up until high school. Because, I used to write my name backwards and upside down. So couldn't write properly, couldn't see properly, couldn't play sports properly. So I just thought I was stupid, which made me have no self-confidence at all. Just none. Absolutely no self-confidence. So then you become the person that does everything for everybody. The one, because that's how you get validation. So I was taught that while I was doing things for people, that I was valued. So then you become that people pleaser.
Yeah.
And that's how all these patterns start to align so when people say, oh, that's not a traumatic experience, and that most people don't know what a traumatic experience is. A traumatic experience is anything that gives you a long lasting negative emotion consistently. I'll explain that a little bit if you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Love it. I want people to take things away from you. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people often think it's just being blown up in a Humvee in Iraq, okay? Yeah, you're in war, you get blown up. But my question would be, why doesn't everybody get PTSD from that? Why do some people deal with it well?
Yeah.
It's because if you've had trauma in childhood, you're more susceptible to take it on when you're older. Yeah. Okay? So what happens when you get blown up? all these adrenaline and cortisol and all these chemicals and hormones dump into your body and causes all this havoc, goes out of control. You feel scared, you feel that, and then it's over. Okay. And then you get PTSD, or some people do, and then that lingers.
Yeah.
What happens if you have that on a small scale? So if you get stressed or scared on Monday, but not on the big scale like that, but just a little scale, still the chemicals still dump into your body.
Mm-hmm.
You still get scared. It's the exact same emotions, and it's the exact same chemical stuff that is happening in your body.
Yeah.
What happens if that happens the next day, though? What happens if that happens the day after that? And the day after that?
Becomes chronic, doesn't it?
And the day after that, it becomes chronic. That's exactly right. So it doesn't matter that it wasn't a huge, big thing, because everything that has happened physiologically happening in your body is the same.
Yeah.
And it is just on a smaller scale, and it sets you up for PTSD when you're older. So these traumatic experiences are just as ever bit as potent as they are when you're older. Even more so, because this creates patterns of behavior now. And if you're worried about whether you're going to eat at home tonight, if you've come home from school and you're worried, been worrying all day if you're going to have something to eat, you're not worried about what you're learning. You're worried about surviving. You can't learn anything if you're worried about copping or hiding when you get home for no reason. Mm-hmm. You can't learn anything if you're worried about no one being home all night. You don't know how you're going to defend for yourself.
Yeah. What was your childhood like then, outside of those experiences at school?
On the outside, pretty good.
Yeah.
My one side of my family were all surfies and stuff, lived down the beach, and mechanics and all that sort of thing. And the other side were all country people. I grew up on a horse farm, so I spent up until I was 12 down the surf coast, and then the rest of it was out in the country, out in Teesdale, Meredith, Lethbridge sort of areas. I grew up on a horse farm. I was always into horses, but that was more for an escape for me. I used to spend most of my childhoods every school holidays. I used to get dropped off out in the middle of nowhere, out with this old lady out in the bush in her little cabin. I'd spend all the holidays out there riding horses by myself, and just out in the middle of the bush, just escaping everything else. It was the only place I felt comfortable. So there was a bit of mental illness, schizophrenia. My mother was always the rock of the family. So whenever there was an issue, it was get up in the middle of the night. We've got to go help my auntie that's got schizophrenia because vampires are coming out of the walls and getting her, that type of thing. There was some alcohol and drug issue, not a great deal, nothing major. It was sort of like on my dad's side, real Dutch family, emotions don't exist. Pretty much. And on my mum's side, it was emotions are a lot. So it was almost like that avoidant side and anxious side, the two worlds collided.
Yeah.
So there was nothing super abusive when you look at it that way. There was nothing like that. It was just the emotional connection that I was able to get. We're all very close still today. I've got a great relationship with everybody still.
Yeah.
But it was just learning how to connect with myself, because I always had trouble connecting with them.
Did that affect any self-confidence?
Absolutely. And it made me look for validation more than connection.
How?
So usually choosing the wrong partners, that usually I become like, I always had to have the best car. I always used to have the most money. I used to have all of that. And usually that attracts people. Don't think about this enough. If you're flashing cash, you're going to attract people that want cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Talking about that on the podcast today, actually. I heard that. Yeah.
So if you're wondering why you keep choosing these people who use you, look what you're putting out there. But you don't think about that when you're in it.
No.
Because you don't think people are going to like you for you. So then you either become a people pleaser, where people just use you.
Yeah.
or you become somebody that has things that people can try and get from you. You know, they're one and the same, but it's and so many people go through it, and that's what I wanted to change, because people always think, why do these people keep choosing me? And it's not. It's you're allowing those people. You know, we need to reframe how we look at what we're doing and reframe the situations that we're putting ourselves in. Because if you keep making a cake the same way and it keeps tasting this bad, you don't make it the same way again, you know, and life's exactly the same. You need to learn to pivot and do something else.
Well, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it?
It is.
When you keep trying the same things and expecting different results.
Yep. So if I look back, so I always like to give this example because it's a very clear one. When you say, how did it sort of appear in me? When I did martial arts from a young age, from 6 years old, I did martial arts. And then it's got a uniform, okay? I went from there to Army Cadets. It's got a uniform. And then I went from there to volunteering for the CFA. It's got a uniform. And then I went from there to going to Thailand doing kickboxing and all this stuff. And I come back and I started one of the first youth clubs in Australia. And that was cool. Used to go to B&S's, full-blown country boy and all that sort of stuff. But I was part of a club. So I was president of that club for 2 years. And then I started a social motorbike club with another guy from Melbourne. And I was the president of that for a couple of years. And then I went from that to a motorbike club where I was the president of that for a year.
See how you got there.
Yeah. And then I went from that to an outlaw motorcycle club. And it was all just a massive progression to that. And you could tell by that it's identity. Right. So that's what I was searching for, was I didn't know who I was. So I was never comfortable enough with myself to figure out who I was. So I didn't know how to connect with myself because I didn't know how to connect to anybody else, because everyone around me had trouble connecting with themselves and with others.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tried to find identity by joining groups and clubs and things with uniforms, like most people do. Yeah, everybody always talks about people in outlaw motorcycle clubs. People are going to hate me for this.
Oh, no. Not only leading our own way.
People from outlaw motorcycle clubs, you know, they're lacking this, they're lacking that, they're lacking this. Police officers and people in the army are exactly the same.
I was about to say, yeah.
They're the exact same people with different path. Exactly. There's no difference at all.
So what was your journey then? What was your role within the club? How do you say it? What's the best terminology to use? You said outlaw.
Yeah,
a lot of biker gang. What is the best way to?
Yeah, usually just say motorcycle club.
Motorcycle club, yeah.
And if you look up the definition, it is the right definition. It used to be motorcycle gang, but they changed it. But motorcycle club does actually best describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's by the Oxford Dictionary. Yeah.
So what did it give you then?
It gave me. So when I joined, I become a full-time bikie. It was my everything and everything. When I left, I had to buy all new clothes. Every single piece of clothing that I owned had the club on it. Like, I just become full hook, line, and sinker into it.
Wow.
And it gave me meaning and purpose. It gave me something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
It was not what the club could do for me, but what I could do for the club. It was the perfect place for a people pleaser and a give it a go. It's something that I could dedicate all my time to. And it was brotherhood. And there is brotherhood in clubs. People can say there isn't, but there is. There 100% is. And it was meaning, it was purpose, it was identity. It was absolutely everything that I was lacking.
Now, I remember on the pre-chat, I wrote a little note, and it brought up. I'm reading my notes now, and it says to ask you to explain the 1% club.
Yeah. So a 1% club is, people don't like what I say, they say that it's like a men's shed. It really is.
Yeah.
So the 1% is a term that was given to outlaw motorcycle clubs by a judge. So I'll start from the very, very start. So the way motorcycle clubs come about was people come back from the war. They come back to America, and they were baby killers. They were, they were hated on. They went and fought for their country, and they come home with severe mental illness and people spitting on them in the streets, no support from the government. So and there was a surplus of motorbikes. There was just a huge surplus of ex-army motorbikes that were around too. So a couple of guys got together and went, well, if nobody else is going to support us, we'll support ourselves. And, that's what they did. And then one day there was a fight. And when they all went to court, the judge said, you guys are 1% of the population that stands outside the law. And of course, to a heap of guys that felt like they were victimized by their own country and all this stuff, they went, yeah, that's true. You know what? We are against society now and all this sort of stuff. And that become their sense of identity. And that's pretty much how bike clubs started. They actually started with guys trying to support each other.
Yeah, wow.
But, things change, dynamics change, and over time they did change. And there are a lot of people in motorcycle clubs for the right reasons, and there are a lot of them in there for not the right reasons. So, yeah, an outlaw motorcycle club member is somebody who lives out the law, lives outside the normal societal laws, which, funnily enough, they have 3,000 more laws than people in normal society.
That they have to obey to be in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Could you share a few?
The rule book is thick.
Is it?
Yeah.
Could you share one or two that wouldn't be a law for me, but is a law for the group, the club?
So this isn't for all clubs, but a lot of clubs. And this is the most shocking one that's why I like to tell it. A lot of the clubs say no ice. So a lot of the times there was members from my club on the news, club member this caught selling ice, and that when I know it wasn't, because it was banned. You weren't even allowed to associate with people that did it. So there are massive misconceptions, and the media does tell it. And I've got nothing. I'm not in a club anymore. I've got nothing. I've got no investment in it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that the media does hype up a lot of shit about clubs that isn't true. I used to read the newspaper and watch the news religiously when I was younger. And the first night I hung around the club, something happened and I was there for it. And the next day it was in the paper and it was a total fabrication. And I just went, okay, well, then you're reinstating that the system is bullshit and that it is biased and all this stuff. And maybe this is where I need to be, where the truth is. And of course, people listening will be saying, oh, that's bullshit and all that. But there is a lot of bad stuff that happens in clubs, but there's also a lot of good stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bad things, the bad stuff, as you labelled it, when that happens in the club, do they take action against those people that make bad choices? Do they get rid of them? Do they throw them out?
Absolutely. If, for example, if you were caught dealing ice or something like that in my club, you'd be pretty hurt, significantly hurt.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'd be kicked out, probably fined as well. You'd have your bike taken off you. Yep.
Wow.
Nothing but bad comes from that drug. It is a very bad drug, and nothing but drama comes with it. And anybody who's on it has usually had a pretty chaotic time, and the club doesn't want the drama associated with it. It's just it'd be never-ending trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not all clubs, but there are a lot of clubs that have that rule. No ice. Yeah.
So where did your life there? You've entered the club. Where does your life go then, and what else were you doing?
Yeah. Well, pretty much then, that's around the time I hurt myself at work. So then it just basically become full-time for me. Yeah, I was going through... So half the time I was working, and then the other half I got injured, and I wasn't. And that's where I always talk about the Brotherhood side of the club. And I always put this little caveat in here. I'm not telling anybody to go join an outlaw motorcycle club. My experience was good. Mm-hmm. A big percentage of people's isn't. So like when they leave, a big percentage of them don't leave the way I did. So when I first got injured, there was always a brother in hospital with me every day.
From the club?
Yeah. There was always...
Can you tell us about the accident then? A little bit, and then what you were doing at the time, and then go from there?
Yeah, so I got off a forklift at work, and I've been picking boxes for like 15 years, and I just got off a forklift, and something went twang in my back, and Did 5 discs in my back, and they said, yeah, you will never lift over 2 kilos again. You'll never work again, and all this stuff. And then 6 weeks later, I was doing something naughty, and karma hit me, and I put my leg through my hip, and shattered it to pieces. And so I couldn't walk for nearly a year. I was on crutches and non-weight bearing for 3 months, and then every month, I think it was after that, I got to put an extra 10% of weight on it. So I was pretty much bedridden in hospital for 6 weeks, and then 3 months at home. And so between my back and my hip, it was just extensive rehab for a long time.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and there was always somebody there with me, always someone to take me somewhere. And that was a huge thing for me. I remember there was a pivotal point where I used to look up to this one member like nothing else. Like he was like my idol. He was like the perfect clubman, and I was like, I want to be that dude in 20 years, you know. And we ended up living together for a couple of years, and he was an older member, super famous, super respected. And it was like an honor and a privilege for me to be living with him, you know, and I just respected him so much. And when I first got home from hospital, I was laying on the chair and we were getting ready to go to the clubhouse, and I was looking at my feet and I couldn't put my socks on. And he walked past once and he walked past twice, and it took everything in my power to ask for help. I felt emasculated, humiliated, and I was just like, and he was a real senior member too, like one of the top guys. And I was like, bro, can you help me put my sock on? And he was like, of course, bro. Just bent down, put my sock on, and walked off. And the way his face was when he said that, it's burnt into me now. It was one of the pivotal, life-changing moments of my life. And people might be going, how? How is that? For me, that meant I can ask for help. I didn't feel like a burden for like one of the first times in my life. This guy was just, the way he looked at me made me feel like an idiot. The way he sort of scoffed and said, yeah, of course, bro. Like, it was like, why did you ask me like that? Of course, you dickhead. Of course I'm going to do it. Like, I can't believe you even asked me in that way. But did you think I was going to say no? Like, that expression on his face said all of that.
Yeah. It's because he's this big tough guy and all that. You thought, no, this guy's not going to help me with mine. So he's going to tell me to man up and get on with it.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't expect it. And it just shattered my belief system of like, wow.
He was, okay. I remember you telling me, he was like the second highest member in the club, wasn't he?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And I'll never forget it. I think about it all the time. There's not a couple of weeks go by I don't think about that moment. It had that much of an impact on me.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, like, from that childhood conditioning, you know, you think you're a burden, you can't ask for help. You need to be that super independent. Because if you ask for somebody's help, it means you're not good enough. You can't do it yourself. You're stupid. You know, it all comes back around.
Absolutely. And I bet that's at the forefront of your mind every time you're just helping a new member, or even a continuous person who keeps coming back. That's just there, isn't it? It's embedded.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you could give them like, oh, of course I'll frigging help you. You crazy? Of course I will.
Yeah, I'll give you another one from the club. Being from the country, you know, grew up on a horse farm and stuff, you know, men are men, and that's how it is, you know. We don't really have emotions and all that sort of stuff, and it's a shake of the hand and that's sort of about it. You go down the clubhouse, one of the rules that we're talking about is you need to say hello to every single member before you sit down. So if there's 30, 100 guys in the room, you have to go up, shake their hands, give them a hug, and some of them will give you a kiss on the cheek because whatever ethnicity they're from. For me, this was really, really foreign. Yeah. You'll have brothers saying they love you all the time. It's like an affirmation. You have 3,000 brothers tell you over a year that they love you. You're like, well, maybe some of these guys actually do love me. You know, you start to feel loved, you know, and it could be for the first time in your life. You're not invisible. You know, all these people are, geez, they love me, you know. Yeah. And I used to have real bad body image problems, and that's due to some stuff in childhood as well with my family just constantly making jokes. They're very, very big on Dutch. If you're overweight and you're in the Netherlands, you will know within 10 minutes of walking on the street because somebody's going to tell you that you should stop eating, you know?
Wow.
The Dutch family just like that, you know? And so I saw some photos recently of myself when I was a kid, and I wasn't overweight at all. I wasn't at all. But I got all these body image issues that I used to like measure my wrist to see if I was getting fatter and all this sort of stuff. Like, and now I've here got all these guys like not just hugging me because they have to. It's like, brother, come here, you know, like hugging. I love you, brother. No one's calling me fat. No one's doing this. No one's judging me. They're just happy that I'm here, shaking hands, saying g'day, telling me they love me. All the Greek boys and that are kissing me on the cheek, and I'm like, well, that's uncomfortable. And then you get used to it, you know, and all of a sudden there's another perception shattered.
Yeah.
And then there was another time, another pretty high ranking member, very very respected member. We're in a meeting. There was like 30 of us in there, maybe 40, and he was crying his eyes out. Something personal had happened in his personal life, and you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody just listened. Not one person said a word. After he had his say and got everything out, everybody walked up to him, shook his hand, told him it was going to be all right. Everyone just took turns, you know. It'll be all right. We're here for you, brother. What do you need? You know. And when I went through my toxic relationship, and you know my anxiety was that bad. Remember, I was telling you I couldn't leave the house. Like, so I was sleeping an hour a day, and I was studying 23 hours a day. They were sending a member out every day to the house, knocking the door. Hey, bro, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. You know, yep, we're just checking on you. I'm like, cool. I just need some time for myself at the moment. No worries, bro. We'll be here. Then another one would rock up. I ended up having to say, boys, I just need some alone time.
It was that much.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm cool. You know,
Oh, wow.
So there really, really is support in bike clubs, and everybody wants to talk about the bad stuff. So I'd like to talk about the good stuff sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've definitely painted that picture tonight, and that's great. And it definitely changed my perception because, again, you just take on what you hear, right?
Yeah.
And I've met you, and you've just completely knocked that out of the park for me. But you during that accident period, and you've mentioned toxic relationship a few times. This is when you met that partner, wasn't it, during your recovery process? And maybe dive into that a little bit. And
yeah, so I'd just been really injured, couldn't really do much at all. Yeah. So I was on some dating sites and stuff like that, which, funnily enough, it wasn't on a dating site. It was, but I met her, and it turned out she was really good at that sort of stuff. And yeah, you know, sort of the savior, coming in, and thought that was everything. Life sorted, the dream, the perfect, every hobby. There's some advice. Don't be with somebody just because you have the same hobbies. Make sure you've got the same morals and ethics. That's the stuff that'll keep you together. It doesn't matter that you like the same music or you both like bowling. That's not going to keep you together. What will keep you together is the fact that you both don't like to cheat, steal, and lie.
Yeah.
So they're more important things, okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So,
good advice.
Yeah, very, very bad relationship. And it's probably one of the things I'm most grateful for that ever happened to me. Because that was my conduit of change. It really, really was. That toxic relationship, that injury, and around that same time, about 3 months after I left that relationship, my brother died as well. So all of these things happened all in a pretty tight space of time. And without them, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I think I'd still probably be just partying. I'd like to think that I would have changed by myself eventually. But, you know, you've got to hit rock bottom before you go back up.
And you went on
it. Well, it was the hurt. It was the hurt of not wanting to go through anything like that again. That changed me. Yeah.
But did you go further downhill then?
I was already in a pretty bad place, but
Troy's willingness to face his trauma and examine the patterns that were holding him back shows us what real courage looks like. The brotherhood he experienced taught him that we're stronger together than apart, a lesson that would become central to his healing philosophy. Anyway, here in part 3, our final part with Troy, we're going to see how Troy transformed his understanding of community and support into something that's changing lives every single day. You'll hear all about it in the episode. If you missed part 1 and 2, it becomes very clear. Please go back and tune into those before listening to this one. It will make more sense. But the loyalty he learned in One Brotherhood became the foundation for creating safe spaces where others could find their own path to healing. Anyway, make sure you go back, like I said, and come back for part 3. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.